We're speaking in the context of when US has announced, again without taking Ukraine into confidence, yet another peace plan. And as we are seeing, the 20 points plan with respect to Gaza hasn't panned out well, and that much was expected. And then again, a lot of Ukrainian territory has been ceded to Russia as well. I'm
Yes,
seeing,
yes.
this sort of imperialism coming from Donald Trump. He feels that he's bringing peace to the world, but at what cost, really, by not taking people into account. So within that context, now another aspect to the global right wing is Nigel Farage. Now, Nigel
Yes.
Farage's activism has revolved around saying that he is fighting off anti-Semitism, that he does not like pro-Palestine marches, he does not like pro-Palestinian voices because he's trying to prevent anti-Semitism. And then just this week, there have been revelations that people who studied him at school, at Dalit school, they say that he used to sing Nazi songs and he used to say Nazi stuff and he used to bully people who used to look different, quote unquote. So, do you really think that the far right and their co opting of things like feminism, which they've done, save our girls from immigrants, from those asylum seekers in hotels, or them saying that we are trying to fight off anti Semitism, do you really think it's coming from a genuine place?
Definitely not coming from a genuine place. I think that they have understood the playbook very well. That it's literally just a playbook, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a pure instrumentalization of topics that they are aware. Let's take those, I guess, one by one.
Yeah.
But the Ukraine issue and the MAGA issue is ultimately, I don't tend to think of Donald Trump's statements as indicative as much of what he's actually thinking as I do as part of a spin campaign. Now, traditional spin campaigns have been about kind of embellishing the truth. I actually think that the category of media sort of propaganda that we see coming out of the White House now is much more about confusion strategies. So it's about essentially such sort of disconcerting statements that we end up sort of debating for hours. Did he really call her piggy in that meeting? And then by the time we've kind of got our heads around the misogyny and the violence of these statements, he said something else and we're caught up. But really, everything important that's happening is happening behind that. None of that is the stuff that really matters. But that's everything that the media is pointing us to think about. And so for us at the T, it's a big part of what we do to try and say, okay, this is where Trump wants us to look. So we're actually going to look over here because that's probably not where it's happening if that's where we're being told to look.
So these are distracting tactics, according to you?
Absolutely. I think that we're in the midst of a huge attempt to profoundly shape our understanding of reality that's only going to get worse through the use of AI technology that is hurtling towards us at the speed of light, to the extent that in the coming years, I don't think that you will know, we may already be there, whether your thoughts and your opinions are really your own.
And I also want to know your views on, I can guess, but still want to really hear from you about Shabana Mahmood's new immigration plan and, the requirement that asylum seekers who I'm told are a burden on the British economy are not allowed to work, but at the same time, they'd be hanging in a state of limbo, waiting for their asylum applications to be processed and getting permanent residence status in like 30 years. Do you think that Labour Party right now is trying to out-reform reform?
I don't think there's any question that that's exactly what they're doing. It didn't work for the Conservatives. I don't think there's any indication that it will work for Labour. One is almost tempted to question whether, there isn't a deliberate attempt to hand victory to the far right, because I don't think we have any evidence to show that when parties in the centre pander to the right, that somehow the far right becomes more moderate. We have far more evidence, if you look at this across Europe, of when the mainstream parties do pander to the right, that they just end up moving further to the far right. So when I look at that, I think to myself, obviously you have to always maintain the possibility of, are people stupid or are they engineering stupidity? And unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. But either way, it's a stupid strategy.
And finally, like just on a final note, I also wanted to talk a little about Pakistan because I saw you into Fatma Bhutto, whom, by the way, I respect a lot. She
Mm,
really speaks her mind and she says the right thing. But in
mm.
Pakistan, one of the interesting facts of life is that just as there is a right wing in the Western world, there's also a right wing here in Pakistan, which is very toxic. And they
Yeah.
are religious right
Tell
wing.
me, because I don't know much about them. Yeah. So paint a picture for me, because I don't know much about Pakistani politics.
I actually wrote a book as well recently. It's called Paying the Price, and it's about
Yeah.
religious extremism in Pakistan. And so,
Mm.
what we have here is certain,
Okay.
offenses in our penal code, and a lot of people have had to pay the price for it. And what happens is there's
Really?
something, yeah, and if somebody were to be accused of what I call the B word, they don't really get any lawyers because the lawyers face threat from the religious right wing. Judges are scared for their lives. The police officials are scared for their lives. So there's no justice, and there are so many people who are trapped in jails for years on end without any hint of justice in sight. And even talking about these matters is really scary. But what's
Mm.
been going on is that there is a network of these religious right wingers in Pakistan, and they level false allegations of committing religious offenses against unsuspecting people, and then they extort them for money, hold them to ransom, and then they also try to intimidate judges in overturning their decisions if any judge were to be brave enough to come up with a decision which is adverse to those networks.
Yeah.
So it is really scary. I mean, the governor of Punjab, I remember he was shot down and I was just a law student at my time. So, at my end, we are trying to struggle against religious extremists here. And what's happening
Yeah.
is that religious extremists in Pakistan say, oh, you sound very Western in your orientation. And then the Western world look at people of Pakistani origin as, oh, they're too much of Muslims and they're immigrants. So, people like me find
Yeah.
themselves sandwiched between these two extremes.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So it becomes a vicious cycle. And that's exactly where I feel very let down, even by our politicians, by the way. So it's really a crazy world. And, one of those centrist, liberal, progressives, that's how I identify, trying to navigate through this madness, for lack of a better
It's
word.
tough. And how powerful are these kind of extreme right-wing groups?
So they have been very powerful.
Okay.
The kind of things I'm seeing now, at least I've started seeing them now. 4 years ago, there was such a close alliance between the military establishment and the PTI government and the religious clergy, and then the masses, the right
Mm.
wing masses,
Yeah.
that there was no scope for dissent for somebody like me. Then what happened was that in 2022, when the Imran government fell and there was a disconnect between the establishment and the Imran Khan government, the masses
Yeah.
were very unhappy about it. And that's when I saw an opportunity that, okay, fine, very undemocratic things are happening right now in Pakistan, but there's a window for me to air my
Yeah.
views because everybody's fighting everybody. So now I can speak some of my mind. So I did start speaking against, politicians' use of, and not just politicians, the establishment whose bidding they also do. I
Yeah.
started speaking out against that. And so what has happened very recently, last month in Pakistan, is there is a group called TLP, which is
Okay.
which plays blasphemy politics, which basically its activism is all about framing people under false allegations of committing religious offenses. Now,
Oh my God.
surprisingly, there is a
Yeah.
crackdown from the state itself against the TLP, that group, which is called
Okay. So this is
Tehrik-e-Taliban.
new.
This is very new, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, and they've been disbanded for now. So
Yeah.
I'm again a bit relieved, but it's happened just when Pakistan's who's who has been seen photographed with Donald Trump. They've been seen in photographs of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has
Yeah.
been saying that this is my favorite prime minister and these are my favorite people. Right
Oh
after that,
wow.
I see, now I don't know, it might be coincidence, but there's a pattern. I'm seeing a crackdown on The religious right wing.
Yeah. And so the religious right wing currently has the support of the US?
I think that the religious right wing are, I mean, I don't think the West liked them anymore. It was the West which created them in the first place.
I mean, look, I mean, Trump seems to be friendly with the Taliban now, so I've got no idea where this man really stands,
But
you know.
Pakistan is now at war with Taliban.
Yes, no, of course. I just meant in terms of like very right-wing religious extremist kind of perspective. He doesn't have a problem with doing business with them.
Oh yeah, he does. I mean, he's also been accepting Al-Shara, you know,
Right.
within his fold. So that's one interesting dynamic. But I think he's also looking at Pakistan for his own interests, like, you know, mineral deals. There are talks of that going on. And establishing trade ties with Pakistan, he cut down the tariffs that he'd imposed to 19% against Pakistan, as opposed to 50% tariffs on India, which is Pakistan's arch rival. So perhaps he wants to open up trade opportunities for the USA, and he can see that that won't be possible with these religious right-wingers on the streets. So perhaps that explains the crackdown on TLP, because ultimately TLP was saying that they were going to march outside the US Embassy in Islamabad. And that's exactly when the crackdown happened. Not out of love for religious minorities in Pakistan. And so being somebody who has been born in Pakistani Muslim Sunni family like me, I feel it my bounden duty to speak up for Hindus and Christians in Pakistan.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you. Coming from you, that's an honor, really.
No, of course. It's so important. And it's so important for them to see that, you know, there are people who don't share their religion, who share the concern with how they're treated. I mean, I fundamentally believe that that is what our religion does actually call us to. So I think it's the most beautiful reflection of that, you know, and I have to applaud you for doing it, particularly because from what I understand from what you told me, you're doing it at a risk to yourself.
What I really like about your podcasts, and from it could be somebody like you or Zoran Mamdani or even Zach Polinsky, everybody at their own different levels. I think that, you know, the voice of humanity is universal. So Zach Polinsky, for example, is Jewish. And I can tell you, because I studied in London, so I had people from India, I had people from Israel studying with me in the same classroom. And we were all so respectful to one another. I've seen wonderful people, you know, of Muslim backgrounds, of Jewish backgrounds, people of no faiths. And I would want to see that being implemented in my own vicinity, in my own surroundings here in Pakistan.
Of course, I can only imagine, yeah. So it's tough for religious minorities across the board, or is it easier if you're Christian than if you're Hindu, or how does it, is it just in general if you're not Sunni Muslim, it's hard, or?
You know, that's such a good question, actually. So there are, again, degrees and levels to it. So, for example, I cannot publicly say Ahmadi. So there are minorities who are disenfranchised, to that level. And then there are minorities whom I can acknowledge that they do exist. So, for instance, I can definitely say that, you know, Pakistani Hindus need to have rights and Pakistani Christians need to have rights. I can say that openly without any consequences. Everybody agrees with that on paper. But, you know, when it comes in practice, unfortunately, a lot of Pakistani Hindu girls are subjected to forced conversions. And when a bill was introduced to that effect by Imran Khan's own government, it was also withdrawn, you know, and Imran Khan, as the Prime Minister at that time, had said, it won't become law under my watch. And so he completely submitted to the authority of the religious clergy. Absolutely. And even now, you know, the People's Party, the Bhutto-led government in Sindh, they don't quite acknowledge that openly, that there is a forced conversion problem. But that's the point, you know, minor girls under the age of 18, they're abducted and kidnapped and converted, and the judges say that the 14-year-old or 13-year-old woman can go with her husband, effectively her kidnapper. So, I mean, a child is a woman to them. A child who does not even have the legal capacity to consent. So it's really problematic. And then as far as Christians are concerned, in 2023, there's an area called Jarawala in Pakistan. And the same TLP I was talking about, the right-wing right-wing political party, they burned down their neighborhoods because there was this false rumor.
This is similar to what the Hindu extremists are doing in India. With the cows, and they're accusing people of
forcing people to say Jai Shri Ram in India.
Yeah.
So, this dehumanization of the other, whether there be people in Gaza, whether there be minorities in my own country, whether there be,
Absolutely.
minorities in India or Kashmiris under
Yes.
Indian occupied Kashmir and that regime under
Yeah,
Narendra Modi. I think that we have nothing good to give our future generations if we ourselves don't speak up and speak out.
I agree. Yeah,
So
I couldn't agree
that
more. Yeah.
solidarity across borders. And there's this one good thing that the internet has done. It's bridged that gap between us. So it has given us Elon Musk and it has given us disinformation and AI. But then that's where we also need to, I think, somebody like me, I really feel that responsibility that, okay, then if the right wing is making good use of internet for their own agenda, then the left wing should
Mm-hmm.
also, for humanity's sake, they at least need to speak up for the truth, at least for their
Absolutely.
truth. So even gender minorities like transgenders in Pakistan, and it's so amazing that the rhetoric in Pakistan against transgenders and trans women is the exact copy paste of the right wing
Is
in
it?
America and the UK. Yeah, so it's what they do here. The transphobes in Pakistan, what they do is they completely copy paste the Western playbook, the Western
Yeah.
right wing playbook on transphobia, and they delete the Islamophobic bits from it and add the religious Islamist right wing bits of a Pakistani kind to it, just straight
Okay.
on.
Yeah, they just give it a local flavor.
And I feel as if they're all really feeding into each other, because what happens is that in say the Western world, they keep on saying that, look, Islamists are very dangerous, and so it's justified whatever Israel is doing. And when Israel does what it's doing in Gaza, effectively
Yeah.
genocide, the Islamists or religious Islamic right wingers in Pakistan, they say, look what Israel is doing. So now what we are doing to Ahmadis and Hindus and Christians in Pakistan is justified. And then this vicious cycle keeps continuing and feeding into itself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot. That's a lot. And at the moment, you are basically seeing the religious right slowly being, I don't know, I'm going to use the word put back in the box. No, or
Reined
yes.
in.
So the right is that right's kind of being put back in a box. You feel like there's a little bit more space
Yes, there is.
currently.
But for entirely unintentional reasons, perhaps. So I think what the current government is trying to do is they don't want to be completely isolated internationally. And
Okay.
so for that reason, now they're setting themselves as, we could be a useful trading partner in the region, now that, India and Afghanistan are not really Trump's favorites right now. I mean,
Right.
Afghanistan not in the sense of being attractive for international trading partners. So,
Right.
perhaps Pakistan is trying to posit itself as a very hard state, which goes hard even against these so-called non-state actors. And so,
Mm-hmm.
not out of love for religious minorities or the transgenders or vulnerable oppressed people here in Pakistan, what the current state apparatus in Pakistan has done is they have launched a crackdown on
Mm.
these fanatics. That's what I call them. And for that reason, I now see, at least when I go out on the streets in Lahore, I used to see those banners which used to send shivers down my spine, where, those mullahs and the radical religious right wingers used to put on slogans like, we are going to do this with your head and we are going to do that to you, all those
Oh
violent sort
my
of messages.
God.
And even on rickshaws. And I used to like put up pictures on my social media. Why do I see this in Lahore? But
That's crazy.
it is, right? It's just like if in the UK we had extremely racist slogans hanging
Yeah.
everywhere in public places.
But it's also just scary because it normalizes violence,
It
right?
does. And also desensitizes not just adults, but even children. There were videos
Absolutely.
of children chanting extremely violent slogans in
Yeah.
schools in remote areas in Pakistan. So now
Mm,
it's not just important for me that children be given education, but my question is, what kind of education are they being given? Are they being taught,
absolutely.
values which are conducive to a healthy democracy, democratic secular values? So yes, we can be a Muslim majority country, we can be an Islamic republic, but
Yeah.
our approach needs to be such that there has to be room for those who are deemed the other, at a minimum.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, look, our history as Muslims has been one of living side by side and benefiting from interactions with minorities. So why are we suddenly in this really weird position where it's like normalizing this sort of supremacist, there's only one way. We have nothing like that in our history.
Absolutely.
Our empires were always multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural. Like, it's insane. Anyway, I mean, I don't need to tell you this. It sounds like you're far more obviously down this road than I am. But I find I'm learning more and more, obviously, thanks to doing these shows and engaging with different people about politics in different parts of the world.
You've been so generous with your time. And
no,
it really means a lot
you.
to me. So thank you so much, and it was lovely meeting you.
Thank you, Muneeb. Well, we'll stay in touch, inshallah. You're part of our community now. We've met. We'll stay connected, and would love to hear your recommendations. And if by any chance, I know she's not Pakistani, she's Indian, but I'm a huge Arundhati Roy fan. If you know anyone who knows her, we'd love to get Arundhati on the show.
I've got a signed book there. I met her in London.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I went to her London book launch, and so I met her very briefly for the book signing. And I just told her that, I really, really appreciate what you're doing in India, because again, that's yet another example of speaking truth to power.
Exactly.
So more power to you, actually. Thank you very much.
All right. And thanks for your time, Muneeb. It was lovely to meet you.
Same here.